Next news. Breaking news from the White House.
President Trump is taking the fight directly to the cartels, and he's not stopping at our border. American Special Forces just launched a joint military operation deep inside Ecuador, destroying cartel drug camps near the Colombian border. And here's where the mainstream media refuses to connect. While our troops hunt narco-terrorists abroad, Democrats in Washington are defunding the very agencies trying to protect Americans at home. And the body count is growing. A young woman in Chicago, Sheridan Gorman, gunned down by an illegal alien from Venezuela who never should have been on American soil. You see, this is a three-front war, and only one side is fighting back. Now, let me be crystal clear about what's happening here, because this affects you, and it affects your family directly. Ecuador has become the world's largest cocaine exporter, according to the FBI. Mexican cartels have turned that country into a transit zone, flooding our streets with poison. President Trump understands that you cannot win a defensive war. You have to take the fight to the enemy. But here's the betrayal. While our military hunts cartels overseas, Democrats are actively sabotaging enforcement at home. They're defunding ICE. They're blocking deportations. And the result? Young Americans like Sheridan Gorman are being murdered in broad daylight by illegal aliens who walked right through Biden's open border disaster. This isn't some abstract policy debate. This is your daughter walking home from class. This is your neighborhood becoming a hunting ground for foreign criminals. The establishment wants you to believe that these are separate issues. Well, they're not. It's really all connected. The cartels, the open borders, the funding fights, and the bodies piling up in American cities. But they want you to look the other way. While Trump takes action against cartels abroad, the reality is that border chaos and defunded enforcement creates uncertainty right here at home. When institutions that we rely on get defunded and disrupted, families need to be self-reliant. If you couldn't get to the store tomorrow, how long would you last on what's in your house right now? If it's less than a month, you need our friends at My Patriot Supply. That's America's #1 preparedness company with over 3 million satisfied customers. And right now at preparewithgary.com, their best-selling 4-week emergency food supply comes with an additional week of food for free. You're getting at least 2,000 calories a day with real meals made from real ingredients. No artificial flavors or colors, and a shelf life that's measured in decades. When you can't count on the system, count on being prepared. Go to preparewithgary.com for your free week of emergency food today, because while politicians play games with our safety, smart Americans take responsibility for their own families. Now, here's what the media is desperately trying to hide from you. The press secretary, just today at the White House, called out the networks by name for ignoring Sheridan Gorman's murder. ABC gave it 1 minute and 19 seconds. NBC, 23 seconds. For a beautiful young American woman whose life was stolen by someone who invaded our country illegally. But the obstruction goes much deeper than media blackouts. Representative Chip Roy, he's warning that cartels aren't the only threat operating freely on American soil. And the judges are putting them right back on the streets. President Trump going all out against the cartels in Ecuador after their new right-wing president, Daniel Noboa, gave the U.S. Pentagon the green light. Mexico should be watching very closely. Listen to this.
Is giving an assist to the South American government that's been fighting drug-related violence there. And William Lajeunesse is in L.A. He's got much more. Hi, William.
Hey, Dana, this is part of a broader effort by President Trump to reassert U.S. influence in Latin America, capture Maduro, the oil blockade in Cuba, helping Mexico. But in Ecuador, we're taking another step, not just providing intel, but a joint military operation. A new front in the war on drugs. U.S. Special Forces in a joint military operation in Ecuador. Using helicopters, boats, and drones, Ecuador says it destroyed a drug camp near the Colombian border, though locals say it was a farm.
These are narco-terrorist organizations that operate in the region who are using Ecuador as a transit zone.
Local gangs with Mexican cartels turned Ecuador into the world's largest cocaine exporter. according to the FBI, and one of the most violent countries in South America.
They have looked at the U.S. as one of its main allies to try to address and fight organized crime.
One day before the military strike, the top brass at Southern Command met with Ecuadorian President Daniel Noboa, a close ally of President Trump, who weeks ago explained how the new U.S. alliance with Latin America would work.
The heart of our agreement is a commitment to using lethal military force to destroy the sinister cartels and terrorist networks.
Over here, we run a lot of the money laundering cases.
Assisting that goal, a new federal task force in Los Angeles to counter those transnational criminal groups.
In Ecuador and other places in South America as well, you see renewed efforts by these drug dealers and drug cartel kingpins to figure out a different way to get cocaine into this country. This is the best way to get things done.
Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche toured the office Wednesday following a major narcotics arrest.
This is the best example of why we have the Homeland Security Task Force.
So Southcom won't say exactly how involved or how many personnel we have in Ecuador, but many argue this is the framework going forward, using U.S. military and police assets with partners in Latin America, Dana, and offensive operations to target cartels.
Sounds like it's more like.
Wow. Having seen Trump's bold military move in Ecuador, let's turn to Representative Chip Roy, who argues that our own streets aren't safe with open borders and external threats encroaching on our homeland. Listen.
No, that's exactly right. And the governor was correct to make that declaration. I support that declaration, and he did it for CARE and the Muslim Brotherhood. And people don't understand what I just pointed out, which is there are some, according to Amy Mack and our friends at RARE, there are 600 organizations across the country and operating in Texas heavily that are funded by, foreign nationals, funded by Middle Eastern countries, funded through channels involving and surrounding the Muslim Brotherhood and CARE, all of whom are operating to advance the March of Islam through Texas and through America on purpose. What we're seeing in Dearborn, New York, Minneapolis, that's alive and well in Plano, Texas, Houston, throughout the state of Texas. And that truth, what you're seeing, people are just, sick to their stomach of watching these, people down on prayer rugs right next to the 9/11 memorial. Over the last 25 years, and I'm going to answer your question, over the last 25 years, we've allowed in almost 5 million people from majority Muslim countries over the 25 years since 9/11. That is not what a nation does that wants to protect itself. We've done the opposite of what we should have done after 9/11. CARE is emblematic of that. The governor is right. The attorney general, I'm telling you, we've got to look at the books. We've got to pull the charters, yank them, shut them down, and go after all of these entities using the Deceptive Trade Practices Act, going after them for their violations of other state statutes. The state passed more statutes last year to be able to go after this epic city. Use every single one of them. Go on full offense. We have got to be aggressive in shutting them down, or we will lose not just the state, but the country. It's a central pillar of our security and safety. You can't stay safe with open borders. You can't stay safe with Islam on the march. You can't stay safe if you've got cartels and other entities operating here and criminals on our streets because judges put them on the streets.
Chip Roy, firebrand himself. He's not the only one sounding the alarm. Senator Ted Cruz is proposing a decade of funding for ICE as Democrats stand firmly against immigration enforcement. Listen.
And so we need at least 7 Democrats, and the Democrats are all voting no, shut it down. Reconciliation, which is how we passed the Working Families Tax Cut last year. What I've argued to my colleagues is let's take up a reconciliation and let's fund ICE for the next decade. Because the Democrats are going to vote against ICE funding for the foreseeable future, I think potentially forever.
So, Joey, what Senator Cruz is proposing there, probably not a bad idea if they can make the numbers work there, because it doesn't seem like Democrats have any intention of funding ICE. We know that they're not big fans of immigration enforcement or border patrol, so maybe this is the way to do it.
I don't know. I don't want anything funded for 10 years. I don't want to spend that kind of money like it's normal. I understand exactly what he's saying. I think there are other legislative means to ensure we don't just leave ourselves open and vulnerable the way we have. Because
See, this is the moment of truth, patriots. President Trump has declared war on the cartels, real war, with American special forces destroying their camps in Ecuador. He's putting the world on notice. Mexico should be watching closely. But the Democrat Party has chosen sides, and it's not with the American people. They're voting against ICE funding. They're protecting illegal aliens over American citizens. They're covering up murders while our kids die on their watch. Senator Ted Cruz just proposed funding ICE for the next decade because Democrats will never vote for enforcement. Think about that. We need to lock in a decade of funding because the left wants open borders forever. This is the defining battle of our time: sovereignty versus surrender, and safety versus slaughter. So the battle lines are drawn, and President Trump is taking the fight to the cartels on foreign soil while defending America from Democrat saboteurs in Washington. Every day they defund ICE, another family buries their child. Every day they ignore these murders, they become complicit. Sheridan Gorman deserved better. America deserves better. And we have the clip here from the press secretary. Listen.
Last week, Sheridan Gorman, a young woman in Chicago, was shot and killed on the street walking with her friends outside of her university by an illegal alien from Venezuela who had no right to be here in the first place. And it's despicable that Democrats are currently defunding the department that's responsible for removing illegal aliens like that. And I would also add it's despicable that the lack of coverage of this young woman's case, of her life, and the way that it was tragically cut short. I saw a survey over the weekend that I'd like to bring to all of your attention. This is the media coverage of the case of Sheridan Gorman. You have ABC News has spent 1 minute and 19 seconds between 2 days when this case was first alerted. You have CBS 2 minutes and 1 second. You have NBC 23 seconds spent on the life of a young, beautiful American woman whose life was taken short by an illegal alien who should have never been here in the first place, when we are in the middle of a battle on Capitol Hill with a major political party, the Democrat Party, who wants to defund the agency that is responsible for protecting Americans. I think her life was worth more than 23 seconds on cable television, and I think the people in this room have a responsibility to report on cases like this, because it just exemplifies why the president believes so strongly in deporting illegal aliens from our communities.
Sheridan Gorman deserved better. America deserves better. And under President Trump, we're fighting for better. So I need you to share this video right now. The mainstream media won't tell this story, so we have to. And drop a comment and answer me this. Should Democrats who vote to defund ICE be held accountable when illegal aliens commit murder? Yes or no? Let me hear it. And since you got to the end of the video, I know you care. This is just for you. Most people don't get to the end, but you did. So text raw feed to 844-840-4963. That's how you bypass the algorithm. That's how you get the notifications from me. Not the missed ones that never arrive from YouTube. You care enough. You need to be on this list. We've got well over 1,000 people now. I want you there too. And don't forget to check out the Next News merch shelf below this video. Pick out something you like. Support our show. Wear your patriotism with pride. I'm Gary Franchi, as always. Stay informed and stay free.
The system controls information. Information control is power.
They don't want you to see this.
The truth only survives together. They don't want this shared. Share this now. You know out.